Don't you hate it when there's a bunch of crazy fighting level 1 and you're left so low on health you can't even finish off your first jungle camp because it will literally kill you in one auto attack? Recalling to get health back is an option, I guess, but that'll slow your clear down by over 30 seconds, putting you massively behind. So what should you do? Well, one little known fact is that while in combat with monsters, your pet will actually heal you. So you can actually attack the jungle monster and then instantly run away from it so it doesn't hit you back. This will begin healing you as your jungle pet attacks it. You usually only need to kite it until it resets just once, and that should give you enough health in order to take your first camp of the game and get started on your clear without wasting too much time. This trick is also something very commonly used by ranged champions in bot lane who take Doran's Blade. While waiting for your opponent to push in a wave, for example, you can simply walk over to the Gromp and just start attacking it from outside of its attack range as a way to lifesteal for free in between minion waves, especially useful on Aphelios who has Red Gun. Another trick that is mainly used by support and jungle is trinket swapping. Before recalling, place all of your trinket wards on the floor. As you can see, this gives me a massive 170 second cooldown. Then in base, simply swap to Sweeping Lens, and voila, the cooldown is now only 120 seconds, wiping off almost 1 full minute off the cooldown of my trinket. This works because the maximum cooldown of a Sweeping Lens is less than the maximum cooldown of your warding trinket. But strangely, this doesn't just work when the trinket is at its max cooldown. It will always deduct about 50 seconds off the cooldown of your trinket if you swap to Sweeping Lens, no matter what the cooldown is, which is pretty cool. Oh, and by the way, you can place wards while channeling recall without cancelling it, which obviously paired with this previous tip makes for a nice 2-for-1 since you can use them in conjunction. So I'm going to count that as our third tip for the video. Now, these were just the first few of many somewhat useful tips that I have to share with you in this video, so if you've ever wanted to get better at League, but only by a little bit, I guess you're in the right place. Without any further explanation needed, let's start the video. Roll intro.
My name's Rogue and I played League of Legends professionally for 7 years. Now I'm a full-time content creator and coach for all ranks Iron through to Challenger. So if you want more information of what a coaching session with me will look like, you can find more information by following the link in the video description below.
And while you're in the description, you'll also find the link to my Patreon where I post all of the recordings of my best coaching sessions in full, with almost 1,000 hours of content currently available, all sorted by role and rank, including sessions where I've coached for professional level teams. You can get a glimpse of what pro level League looks like from the inside. That's why whatever you're looking for, you'll easily be able to find something that's going to help you improve, no matter your rank. Let's start off with a cool one. Critical strike isn't perfectly random. 50% crit chance doesn't mean your next attack will always have a 50% chance to crit. It means that overall, 50% of your attacks will. You start off with a 50% chance to crit, but if after multiple attacks you don't get a crit, the likelihood of your next attack being one increases dramatically to compensate. The same works vice versa. If you crit for multiple attacks in a row, the likelihood of your next attack being one becomes dramatically lower. I tested this with about 100 auto attacks with a 50% chance to crit. Every time I didn't crit for 2 attacks in a row, I always crit on the third, and every time I crit for 2 attacks in a row, I didn't crit for the third. Okay, that's cool, but how is this useful? Well, if you're in lane last hitting minions and you notice that for the last couple of attacks you've done, you haven't crit a minion in a while, that means that the likelihood of your next attack being a critical strike is now dramatically higher. So you can dash in on your opponent and start a trade since you now have a much higher chance of getting a crit onto them. Then, during the trade, after getting 3 crits in a row, which should be extremely lucky, it's now pretty easy to predict that attack number 4 most likely won't be a crit, so you could easily just back out now and end the trade there, since the crit pendulum is no longer tilting in your favor anymore. Towers have a target selection priority. Here's the official list. It's not that useful to know, but there are a couple of niche things to note here that are actually really useful. Yorik's Mistwalkers, for example, are prioritized before melee and caster minions, but they are prioritized after siege minions. So as Yorick, it might be worth waiting until summoning your ghouls until it's a cannon wave, as they'll just simply deal far more tower damage once the tower prioritizes the cannon creep over your pets. Another thing to note is that all pets in the game are prioritized before minions, which means that a tower will always turn and kill Malzahar's Voidlings or Heimerdinger turrets first. But the trick is, if a tower has locked onto a target, it cannot switch target to a non-champion for any reason once they've locked onto one. So if you want to get max tower damage, wait until the first melee minion dies to the tower because it dies in just 3 shots. Then when the tower switches to attack the cannon minion, you can place all your Heimerdinger turrets or summon your pets. This way, they'll stay alive for longer and deal more tower damage since the tower will ignore them for longer. I found this one to be really useful when playing a Zyra support, for example, since you can just spawn a plant underneath the opponent's tower, and if the tower is already locked onto your cannon minion, it will just ignore the plant entirely and leave your opponent to get abused by plants under tower, since the tower just doesn't help. Doing Void Grubs as a family is fun, but you may be hurting your jungler by doing so. Furthermore, if you take Void Grubs with multiple people, the amount of XP given is shared amongst them all. Here, I take Void Grubs solo with no help from anyone else. After killing all 3 of them by myself, I finish with 464 XP. Let's remember that. Now, when I replay the same situation, but with Orianna this time leashing the Void Grubs for me, but still giving me the last hits, I end up with 347 XP, while she gets 117. If you add these two amounts up, it ends up being the same total of the XP that I got by myself when I sold the Void Grubs. The only difference here is that it is now slightly split up amongst 2 people. So I guess a very small optimization you can make as a support player is to just not hit the Void Grubs, so you don't get an assist for taking them, thus not leeching XP off of your jungler, if they're close to dead, I guess. When you take a tower plate, its armor increases as a result of doing so. So in the very specific situation where you have the rune demolished but it's not yet stacked on the tower, and you hitting the tower would break a plate, you're better off not attacking the tower until after your demolish stacks. Breaking the plate would increase its armor, and if you proc your demolish after it increases its armor, the demolish would deal far less damage. So overall, you can deal more tower damage by waiting to proc demolish, since it'll do a burst of damage against the tower with far less armor since the plate hasn't been broken yet. Here's a montage of useful but difficult to place wards. The bot side Tribush one is definitely the harder of the two, but I've managed to get both of them to be very consistent, even with Smartcast on. The 2 harder but even more useful wards are this one, obviously useful for a team starting Dragon, and this one over the back of Baron Pit, which as you can see is the final boss of hard to place wards. I am struggling. I've never had the balls to attempt this one in a real game, but you can imagine if you got this consistent and did it in a real match, holy crap, this one ward during a Baron contest could win you the entire game. Ah, what a lovely day to take a stroll through the jungle. Oh look, a red buff. I'm an ADC. I love red buff. Let me take that real quick. Wait! Don't take that yet, Ash. You've been making a huge mistake. Look at the time. It's just a couple of seconds until 25 minutes. How about you just stand there tanking that buff for a few more seconds? Voila! The red buff is now corrupted. Now you can kill it, Ash. Since you were patient enough to wait, your entire team gets to share the red buff with you. How awesome is that? Oh, what a lovely day to go for a stroll. Oh look, a blue buff. I'm a mage. I love blue buff. Okay, we get it. It works for blue buff too. Wait till 25 minutes before taking the buffs, guys. Then everyone gets them. Moving on. Don't you hate it how there are some certain angles that just make it impossible to move from one tower to the other with the Rift Herald? There's just too much terrain in between, and the Herald just isn't maneuverable enough to get there. I hate it too. Well, let me introduce one of League of Legends' many intended features. If you're inside the Rift Herald at the same time as the tower dies in the lane that you're currently in, something interesting happens. I'm just gonna let you watch. That's right. You get 2 charges of the same Rift Herald. So here, even though I can't usually make it all the way from mid to bot lane tier 1 tower, well, now I can because of the extended range of my double charge. I think the best use of this is when moving from mid into the blue side tier 2. You can use the first charge to get to top lane, but the angle is too tight of a turn in order to actually collide with the tower. But don't worry, because remember, you get a second charge anyway. Now I fear that if I give you any more tips for this video, they're likely going to be too useful, so we're going to have to end it there, guys. There should be a button you can click right now on the bottom right corner of the screen that'll do it for you in just one click. Otherwise, my name's Rogue, and thanks so much for watching everyone. Have a great day.